Hello, everybody, and welcome to
I'm ready to have
Terminator.
another bout of fun with the even better. Oh.
Welcome to Terminator 2
God,
Judgment
that
Day,
logo.
published by LJN on the Super Nintendo and developed by a British developer called Bits. Okay, so Probe Software failed to make a good Terminator 1 game. Let's see if Bits does any better.
So yeah, I mean, I know that LGN is done basically all shit, but these be.
Okay, folks, for those of you who aren't that familiar with the history of gaming, LGN were kind of like the EA of their day, where for some reason they got a lot of licenses for a lot of things. Of course, turned out rather shoddy products, but charging
The first
over the
LGN
nose for it.
So I think you're cutting out. You might want to reset. Anyway, yeah, so the game starts with this awesome power style censorship. Okay, this don't get used to this. This is
kind of awesome, admittedly.
Yeah, this
and
is
it is
funny.
nice how they're
Yeah,
being
this is-
immersive with the
yeah,
whole
this feels like
digital screen
something-
scene that you see through the eyes.
Yeah, this feels like something you'd see in the movie. Don't get used to this though, because this is the only instance in this game where the game feels witty. Because everything else is garbage.
Hasta la vista, baby Jesus.
So, Pedro, what was your experience with LJN back in the day?
Fortunately, I got spared a lot of their games, but this is one of those that even I did not escape. I grew up with this one, and it's terrible. All right, let me explain the controls. The Terminator controls basically work the typical, like, you can fire, you can jump, and you can fire the pistol. It's the driving controls that are the problem, as the AVGN mentioned in his T2 compilation. But we'll get to that. Here's how the driving controls work. You hold Y you hold B to accelerate, but you hold Y to turn. How does that work, you might ask? I'm going to explain this later. For now, let's just get
Can you remap the buttons?
You can, but that doesn't make any difference to Ebs, I assure you. Remapping the buttons will
You'll
not.
see what he means.
Okay, so first objective: obtain pistol and shotgun and find the residential address of John Connor. Okay, that's basically
Video game ad adapters. Did you kind of forget that he already kind of got the guns at the bar?
I could just barely make out the text.
Okay, to be fair, I don't mind them taking that liberty just for the sake of giving us something to do in this level. It's fine, I don't mind that. My problem...
I take issue with it because the gameplay leading up to it is horrendous, Pedro.
Well, true. Okay, first off, the control is garbage. It's hard to explain, but Arnold moves like a... Arnold feels so heavy, and I guess it should be because he's a Terminator, but it still doesn't work in terms of making the gameplay fun. Also, that box there, that's a future object. What are future objects, you might ask? Basically, here's what happened, guys. Bits made this game. They realized that the game was too short because they were following the story of the movie closely. So they came up with this extra subplot called the future objects. Basically, aside from sending Terminators into the past, Skynet also sent these future objects to the past to make sure that people that someone like Dyson will get inspired by the future technology and create Skynet. Just like it happens in the movie.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you over the wonderful SNES resolution sound of that motorbike.
Not just that, but again, it just basically, Dwebs, the future objects are just a way of the developers padding the game out. That's literally all it is. Let's just add in this arbitrary collectible that you need to collect all of them in each level to complete the level, even though it has nothing to do with anything. That's all it is. It's just padding. So Dwebs,
Oh my god.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, too.
No, I'm cutting out again, I think.
Yeah, sorry.
Hey, what you were saying, Pedro?
Dwebs, you're the one who's familiar with, might be familiar with Bits from Britain. What else did they do?
Never heard of them.
Well, try to look it up while I talk.
Oh no, the memory into me. The motorbike sequences, the isometric view, the way the controls worked, but were terrible. The diagonal bits. Screw the diagonal bits for a controller that only had cursor buttons.
You know what's interesting? The Mega Drive version controls radically different in these sections, even though it was made by the same developer. I don't understand either, before you ask.
Okay, I found their,
Pizza Studios, there you go.
yeah, their gameography includes such classics as Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves for the Game Boy.
Meh.
The Terminator 2 Game Boy game.
No comment.
The Last Action Hero video game.
So basically,
I
they're
have
just a
not gotten
generic
around to playing
licensed
that
game
one.
developer. Okay.
Yeah. One of their last actual games was the Constantine video
Okay.
game, movie video game.
Okay, let me explain the problem because it's. Well, actually, we're about to. Let me explain the problem because it's hard for those who are not playing to realize what the problem is. In order to turn, I have to hold Y and move the D-pad. The problem is the turning controls are completely nonsensical. It's hard to explain, but try to play this and you'll see exactly what I mean. I tried pressing into the direction I wanted Arnold to turn, but he just won't turn. I don't understand. Sometimes he turns where I want him to, but most of the time he doesn't. And I don't understand how the hell these driving controls are supposed to work.
Yes,
Allow me
Jordan.
to explain part of the main issue here. Again, like I said, diagonal controls for stuff with the cursory buttons, they aren't necessarily impossible, but let's just say there's a reason a lot of games were not exactly that big with doing them, and the games that tried and failed were definitely panned for it.
And
Like
keep in
Pedro
mind,
mentioned,
everybody.
you have to hold the Y button in order to turn. So that sounds fine enough. The problem is that because of the way the SNES controllers worked, you remember how the SNES controller was kind of one where if you pressed another button, sometimes it would cancel out unless
Hold on, Joe,
it
let
was
me just
mapped to
mention
have-
this. Before you enter John Connor's home, make sure you take down the alarm. Also, random bombs show up for some reason.
Apparently someone has plastered John Connor's house with
Yes.
bombs.
Go ahead, Joe.
Huh.
Keep going.
Anyway, the SNES controller was one where basically, unless you had like a button prompt specifically for having two buttons be pressed at the same time, more often than not, pressing one button was going to cancel out the other, and that was sort of why, movements could feel a bit limited on the SNES.
And by the way, practically the entire places in the level can be destroyed for no real reason aside from hurting you. Anyway, let's check the messages. Answering machine located. Let's see.
Okay.
Checking message. John, Pete here. See you at the mall about 10:30. Bye. Alright, so that's our clue. Okay. Alright.
Time to go to the mall.
Okay, so basically we have to locate a photo ID of John Connor.
Where
Because,
to?
of course, John Connor, who actually sent this T-800 back in the day, couldn't have provided this T-800
There we
with
are.
any pictures of
Well,
him.
to be fair, Joe, his
So,
appearance keeps changing in every movie.
Oh,
Still, though, you'd think John Connor, the guy who sent him back, would, I don't know, think about this stuff?
And
Alright, okay.
going back
Okay,
to
T-
sorry.
T800, T800. I understand that my appearance keeps changing in every movie, but you just gotta trust me, alright? I look like this early 90s kid, alright?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, like Jova was saying, like and keep in mind, everybody, every time the controls are terrible, which makes it not so much abundantly easy that you'll hit a vehicle. It's certain. Oh, that's because Teo, the Terminator moves
know,
so
the
slowly.
jumping.
Yeah, the Terminator
The
moves so
jumping is the
slowly
best
that the only way.
efficient.
Yeah, the only way to move at a somewhat decent pace is to jump around, which is. Anyway.
Also, this music doesn't really sound fitting for Terminator.
No, the soundtrack is garbage. The whole game is
Grumble.
garbage. But anyway,
Ground mobility found to be rather slow. Initiate a Mario hopping sequence.
seriously,
Yes, Pedro.
David Perry and his team were the only ones who actually tried to make a good Terminator game, it seems. But anyway,
I mean, okay, maybe to the devs' credit, you can tell that they tried here, but they horrendously failed with this game.
they did.
Like-
This is them trying. I don't even want to see them not trying. Then, like,
I can see ideas that they may have had here, make an overall adventure, where you play as the Terminator in certain scenes, and then, of course, use your motorcycle to travel from place to place, and oh my god, I just realized...
I don't know. That's just
this is
generic
hard.
video game progression. Honestly, really, is that really worthy of praise?
I'm not saying it's
you-
worthy
you
of
go from
praise, I'm
level
just
to
saying I can see what they were trying to do, that's all.
Best game ever.
Keep in mind, every time like I said, the controls are so terrible, it's not so much probable that you're going to hit a vehicle, it's certain that you're going to hit a lot of vehicles in these sections. Keep in
I
mind,
wonder if anyone's ever done a no-hit playthrough of this game.
that thing that you see there on the top left, status, that's my health. Every time I hit a vehicle, I get hurt. You're probably seeing the problem right now, aren't you?
Yeah,
As
but
a
now you've uncovered the solution. Just drive on the Just drive on the
dude.
reservation.
Actually, it's much more simple. My solution was just to use Game Genie. There you go.
I meant about getting around the driving.
Yeah. So basically, okay, now I have to turn. But I can't. Notice the radar in the top right corner. It's telling me where I'm supposed to go. Or rather, a brief where my destination is. I swear to you guys, I am trying my fucking hardest to turn, but I can't because again, it's not.
The police! They're trying to run us down!
It's hard to the Batmobile? What the hell is the Batmobile doing here? Like, okay.
Thanks, Batman.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Keep in mind, everybody, I assure you, I'm trying my best. See, I had to jump cut.
Wait,
I'm not even kidding, guys. I spent like 7 minutes in this intersection. I'm not even kidding you.
I think I get it, guys. The Batmobile in an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie-based game, this was foreshadowing for Batman and Robin.
Of course.
Alright, so we've reached the mall where John Connor is. Again,
More like
it's hard to explain, but trust me, the driving controls in this game defy all logic and any intuition you will have as a gamer. They make no sense.
It's the turning mixed with, strafing. Essentially, you think, normally the way a driving control would work is like, okay, I just nudge left and right in order to move left and right around here. It's mainly when you have to rotate yourself. Like, okay, you could have just maybe had it that, you could have just tied in the rotating with the actual turning, but no, they made a different input for rotating, which is part of the problem, because then the SNES controller sometimes has difficulty deciding whether or not it wants to do that slight turn or if it wants to do the full rotating. Again, part of an issue with the limitations of controllers like the SNES controllers back in the day.
Yeah, I have 2 primary tips for this small level. Remember, as you saw the level, then you'll know that this is the first time where the T800 and the T1000 meet face to face. So obviously we're going to meet them here. So here's my hint to you. First off, make sure you don't hurt anybody. Why? Because if you hurt anybody, the cops will start shooting at you. And you need to conserve your health for the T1000 when he starts attacking you, I assure you. Because
what the heck are with the cops roaming around the mall with their guns out, though? Or nobody tackling a random non-police guy holding his gun out?
I have no idea, Jova. So
it's just one track looping so much.
Also, when you get John Connor with you, the entire game becomes a gigantic escort mission. Which means that, and if the T1000 kills John or Sarah Connor, you die. And keep in mind, this game is only one life, no continues, and if you die, you go back to the beginning of the game. So that's nice. Thanks, Bits.
That's pretty bad. Like, I'm pretty sure even the first Terminator game on the Sega CD didn't have that kind of stuff.
Well, actually, but that's the thing. The David Perry game was the only one who had extra lives. That's the thing. Again,
true, but the Sega CD at least had your escortee not being an idiot or being fragile.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that the escort was invincible in the first Terminator game.
Aside from making sure you don't hurt any civilians or cops so that the cops will not start chasing you and shooting at you, make sure you get all future objects like I just did before you go to John Connor. So that way you won't have to deal with the T1000 or anything. So you can quietly retrieve all the... That's because even though the rolling stairs are in the opposite direction, I can get past that if I just jump. So here's a T1000. So yeah, when you get to John Connor, here's what you do. There you go. Identity positive. Here's how it works. Pause and turn in John to follow to yes. And John Connor will follow you everywhere you go. And yeah, John's status, that's his health. You can always check his health on the pause menu. Make sure he doesn't die, because if he dies, you die. And if you die, it's back to the beginning of the game. So, yeah. And there you go. The entire game has now become an escort mission.
Joyful.
Hello and welcome to Terminator 2 Escort Day.
Also, again, this track so obnoxious.
The music. Trust me, Teo. Be glad that I'm not playing. Be glad that I'm not playing the Mega Drive version, because the Mega Drive version has even worse instrumentation than this. It's the same melodies, but with even worse instrumentation.
LTA games as a whole had this problem. Terminator 1 on the NES. Back to the Future.
Dibs, the moral, from our Terminator playthroughs that we've done so far, the moral so far is get Tommy Tallarico. That's the moral that we need to learn here.
Well, get any decent composer if you can't.
Not only that,
Yeah.
get a license to get the
Terminator
main theme. Yeah,
Virgin was the only one who got that. Anyway, okay. Here's an interesting thing about the driving.
Use the theme with it though.
I know, but well, like we've established before, Dwebs, music rights are their own separate kind of worms. But anyway, interesting. You know, it's an interesting thing. Turning in the Mega Drive version is a lot easier because the controls in the Mega Drive version work more like you just drive, and if you press a D-pad, you just turn to whatever. The D-pad is you pressed, you know. There's no turning button. However, for the Super Nintendo version, Bits decided to include a turn button and completely change. I don't understand why they completely change. Here's what you need to do, everybody.
So in the Mega Drive version, you get better control at the expense of sound.
Yes. So basically,
fair.
Oh well, in that case, I guess I take the
Mega Drive version.
Sega Genesis version.
Same.
Because I mean, sure, the soundtrack may not be as good, but hey, bigger screen,
Implying
less
this
screen crunch, and
soundtrack's
better
good.
controls.
I picked the Super Nintendo version for this playthrough for two reasons. One, that way you don't have to torture our audience's ears with the bad instrumentation. Second, my frustration trying to drive
Like, this is much better.
my frustration trying to drive will at least provide some good hilarity at least. No, I assure you, Teo. I assure you, Teo. Boot up an SNES emulator, boot up this ROM, and try it. You will rage quit at 2 minutes. I would be surprised if you last 2 minutes before you rage quit at this. It's
And keep in mind, you're using a Game Genie. Imagine having to deal with this.
Keep in mind, every time I get hit, I get hurt. I would be dead by this point. Look at this. Why is everybody trying to kill me?
Pedro, I didn't know you were actually playing GTA 1.
There's a reason why most people choose to not care about GTA 1 and 2. Those games haven't aged well, you know? For all intents and purposes.
Stage better than this.
Like, that's saying much. Like,
Ow.
okay, so the moral of the story here is don't get a British developer to make a Terminator game, apparently.
It's funny because a British developer were also behind that big franchise that Deep Silver tried to make big. Not
Which
the Mighty
one?
Number 9 one.
Right to Retribution.
Yes, Ride to Hell Retribution, which, funnily enough, like this game, Ride to Hell Retribution also has stuff where, you have your running gun levels and then you have your motorcycle levels. So I gotta
See, I'm
wonder,
trying to turn, but I can't. And while I'm in the middle of trying to turn, everybody fucking gangs up on me. Look at that car.
Wow, even the
It's a machine orgy.
I think even the civilians are trying to kill you.
Also,
How the hell are you
Joe,
supposed to complete this game without Game Genie?
if I recall correctly, for Right to Hell, it was a case where the latest studio basically savaged quote unquote savage, because we know the end result, but basically got a project that was going on for years and years from another developer, similar to how Gearbox.
I got to my destination. Thank God.
Took
And they entrusted it to the studio who made Pimp My Ride.
You know what's the interesting thing too about the escort mission part? I dread the driving section so much that I'm just wishing for escort missions. But anyway, so yeah, this is the Pescadero Hospital, I think it was named, right?
Sorry, I thought you were going to say this is the pesky T-1000.
The mental asylum where Sarah Connor is committed. Basic, as we all know, John Connor orders the T-800 to save his mom, so here we are. And the T-1000 once again is here to cause us trouble. And once again, we can't. You see, this is abundantly.
Can't just walk. That's a joke.
Not just that, Webs. Of all levels, this is the one where it becomes the most apparent why they added the future objects collectible. Because this level would be over in 5 minutes if it wasn't for the future object collectible thingy. That's my primary theory. Bits finished the game. They realized that the game only lasted like 30 minutes. So what do? Let's pad the game out by imposing this contrived, unnecessary collectible that the player needs to collect in every level.
Sorry, all this bouncing around makes him look like I'm a kangaroo. Boing, boing, boing.
Again, trust me, I'm not doing this to be funny. I'm doing this because if I don't, this playthrough would last 3 parts instead of 2. You know?
And the officer's following you like, hey, where are you going? Come back. I just wanted to get your insurance.
Oh, by the way, here's another interesting thing. We don't know the floor where Sarah Connor is, which means we have to find out where it is. Okay, to be fair, you can make your job easier by checking a computer to where she is, which floor she is. So you don't have to just explore every single room of every single floor. It's still not the best because it tells you, the computer tells you where the floor she's at, but it doesn't tell you which room it is. So you still have to explore every room in that floor at least.
I would say the animations for the T-1000s are actually really good.
They are. I just wish the sprites were a bit more defined.
Very good with the devs self-inserted themselves as a Coke vending company.
There you go. Terminal output, Sarah Connor, female, Dr. Silverman, floor 5. Or 6, rather. What's it, 6?
6, yeah.
Whatever. The point is, okay. See, that's fine, Theo. The animations are fine. My problem is the sprite quality itself. They look so tiny. I mean, I wish the sprites were a bit more well-defined, honestly.
Also, again,
to be fair, that was kind of an epidemic with sprites back in the day.
I guess.
I've seen good-looking tiny sprites. I've seen the Ace
Hey, look, there's Bits Cola. Get it?
Yeah,
Bits
I
Cola.
noticed that. You made me throw batons at you.
You Brits are so witty. Anyway.
If not evil.
All right. Let's.
Okay, I am muting the video now.
So
yeah, this song is still going.
The music is that's another thing. The music in this game
really
is garbage.
Much better than the Sega Genesis version.
No, actually, I don't know, Jova. I kind of like the Mega Drive soundtrack. It wasn't as great as Tommy's music, but it was a fine enough soundtrack by Matt Furness, for the record. Like Matt Furness is a veteran video game composer.
Do you mean the Mega Drive version of this game?
No, the Mega Drive version of Terminator 1.
I was asking Jova.
I was talking about this game.
Oh, this game. Oh, never mind then. In that case, it's the instrumentation is better, Jova, but the melodies are still garbage.
Also, you know what Super Nintendo game had its exact same thing of repeating its soundtrack on loop on every 5 seconds? No, Jova.
Hong Kong 97.
Hong Kong 97, yeah. Highlight was for the NES. Super Highlight on the SNES actually had a more varied soundtrack.
Ugh, this is so garbage. Okay, here's the thing. Even though
also,
we
I
know...
see that you have bullet rounds like normally without a Game Genie. How do you?
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot how to explain that. Okay, your pistol has infinite ammo. However, your secondary weapon does not, and it's the rounds number that Theo just noticed. Right now, I have a shotgun. However, every time I replace my secondary weapon, that becomes my new secondary weapon because you can only have 2 weapons at a time. You can have a shotgun, a Tommy gun, or a heavy machine gun. Remember that heavy machine gun that the T-800 uses on the cops, and you can use that as well. However, make sure you do not pick up any secondary weapon that you do not want, because it will just replace the one you already have and it will be gone. So be careful with that. If this was a good game, the pause menu would have a weapon selection option, but what do I know?
But Pedro, they're all accused of ripping off Mega Man.
No, hold on, Dweebs. Not just that. This is a Super Nintendo. You have so many buttons at disposal, and you have no use for any of them for the change weapon.
No, Theo. The X button does nothing in this game.
It's like Batman Forever.
The L and R buttons do nothing in this game. My guess is this game maybe was made for the Mega Drive and then ported to the SNES, maybe, which is why it has
possible.
That doesn't explain the completely different driving controls, though.
Actually, well, no, yeah, that's true. You're right, because if this was done first on the Super Nintendo and then on the Mega Drive, I would say that they try to improve for that version. But if it's actually the contrary, then it's a downgrade.
The primary differences between the two versions is this: graphics-wise, they look the same. Music-wise, this version has better instrumentation. However, in terms of controls, specifically driving controls, the Mega Drive version is better. And yes, we found Sarah Connor. So now we can tell her to follow us. Yeah, that's another thing. A little tip for you guys: if you want to do something like, here's what I recommend doing from this point on. For most of the levels, what I recommend doing is the moment a level begins, immediately pause the game and tell John and Sarah to not follow you and just stay there in the beginning of the level. What you do there is you leave them there where they're safe, and then go ahead and collect the future objects. Then when you need them again, go back to the beginning of the level and get them. That's what I recommend doing, because if you just drag these two all over the place, they become a gigantic liability, because it's incredibly easy for the T-800 to kill these guys. And remember, the cop fire also hurts them. So again, these two are basically two big burdens on you.
But I thought Sarah Connor was supposed to be this trained warrior at this point.
Well, she does help us out with her gun, Dwiz. The problem is that it's just a pistol. It's not that efficient, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, let's keep going.
Not bulletproof like even the Terminator isn't bulletproof, but you can't take bullets like the Terminator can.
The cheats I'm using are infinite health and infinite health for Sarah and John. Because just for the sake of making this playthrough somewhat tolerable outside of the driving sections, because nothing can make these things tolerable.
Oh, and now you're in a car.
Too bad the car still controls it just as bad as the motorcycle.
Yeah, it's bigger though, so you have even more chances to get hit by something.
Alright, so now that we escaped from the hospital, for those who have seen the movie will remember that now we're supposed to go to Enrique's place.
Ow.
Okay, Enrique's place is in a very remote section of the map, and this is where your compass type of thing becomes a problem. You see, the compass doesn't actually tell you which direction you're supposed to turn. It only points to the exact location of your destination. Here's the problem: a lot of times you'll see the thing telling you to turn south, but there will not be any path towards south. So you have to look for a path that leads south. And just looking for that path will automatically get you even further away from the goal. And as a result, navigating this road is also very nightmarish in a lot of ways. Combine that with the fact that the controls are garbage and the fact that it's incredibly easy to die. Again, I have no idea how the hell are you supposed to complete the Super Nintendo version, because the version I grew up with was the Mega Drive version. And I actually, even without cheats, I was actually able to get to the Cyberdyne level. However, I died in the Cyberdyne level because it was one of those, there was way too much explosions and shit like that. The Super Nintendo version, on the other hand, I have no idea how the hell you're supposed to complete this game, considering how terrible the driving controls are. For those who don't remember, the AVGN rage quit at the second driving section, and I don't blame him.
No, not at all.
I mean, personally, I would kind of wish he would do what he does usually with a lot of games, because there are a lot of playthroughs, like we did for Ghostbusters, where he boots up Game Genie just so he can show the rest of the game. I kind of wish he would have done. I kind of wish he would have done that instead of just rage quitting. But
that's the thing, Pedro. I think it was during that time he was kind of marathoning through a bunch of different Terminator 2 games. So I guess he didn't want to spend too much time on one of them.
Yeah, true. True. That's fair. That still doesn't excuse the Superman 64 review, if you ask me. Superman 64 was one that he bothered to hype up as hell, only to create a very mediocre review. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. The point is, this game is nightmarish, and is Bits even still around?
No. They lasted till the mid-2000s.
Remember, one of their last games was the Constantine movie tying.
Oh, their very last game was a casino game for Banco.
So yeah. Also, this music sucks as well.
Still going.
This is just the same two tracks repeated on a loop.
Keep in mind,
guys, this is why the mute button is your friend.
Keep in mind, folks, in the audience, I'm one of those people who actually like those videos on YouTube who have the track on a game, for example, looping for 30 minutes. I'm usually
I do too.
That. This is just obnoxious.
I'm trying to turn north if the game will fucking allow me.
You're in my way, sir.
There you go. See, notice what happened earlier there? I turned to the right direction for a brief section, but I was so used to constantly mashing the D-pad that I accidentally turned myself away from the right direction. See, that's another problem. Someone programmed this. Someone got paid to program this.
Like I said, it's LJN. What did you expect?
They released this.
They're
People pay
essentially...
for it.
I just realized they're not just the EA of their time, they're also the Activision of their time. Where companies could get away with a lot more.
Okay, this is by far the easiest level in the game. Why? All you're doing here is collecting weapons. But why is the T-1000 in here? The T-1000 did not show up in Enrique's place. You know, Bits, maybe you should actually have watched the goddamn movie before you made the game. Just saying. I mean, what's next? You're gonna call the T-1000 the T-1 kind of like the Ghostbusters Master System game called Gozer Gorza.
Yeah, kinda. I forgot which one of the Ghostbuster games actually forgot, but did not include. I keep forgetting the name.
Winston?
Yeah.
A lot of them, actually. Even the good Mega Drive one didn't include Winston. The common gag is that Ghostbusters games from that era were all racist, apparently. Like, what other conclusion can we come to?
Winston barely did anything in those films.
And now these bikers want you dead.
There you go. Basically, what I recommend doing, of course, is getting the heavy machine gun and collecting as much ammo to fill out until 99999 rounds. That would make destroying Cyberdyne easier.
Oh, thank God the music's gone.
So in the next part, everybody, we finished the game with the final 2 levels. So see you then.
See ya.